Hi you guys, Emily here. Just kind of wanted to come on here and have a little sit down and chat with you all. If you can see from the title, this is like a post-move update, 6 months out of New York City. Talking about how I'm feeling, how I'm doing, if I miss it, all of the things. But yeah, I have been wanting to make this video for a really long time, and honestly it's been hard to like think about sitting down and talking about this huge change in my life and how I'm doing, how I'm feeling about it. It's been quite a ride. Yeah, I'm upstate. As I'm sure you all know if you're watching this video, I'm upstate right now. I moved 6 months ago. I moved end of August, September, so it's September, October, November, December, January, February, end of February, so it's been like 6 months now. We are up here, upstate, living life. I'm feeling really settled at this point, which I think is probably why I'm making this video. I want to be my authentic self and like share what's going on in my life. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to open up and say how I'm feeling, because it hasn't been just like a smooth transition upstate by any means. I know on Instagram I'm living the life, but you know, Instagram's a highlight reel. Sometimes you just gotta sit down in front of camera and like talk it out, and so that's what I'm doing. I'm not completely sure how I feel about being upstate, but we're gonna talk it out, we're gonna figure it out. Well, I think we should start with the actual move. When I first moved into New York City like over 3 years ago, I moved there for a job. I wasn't necessarily looking to move to New York City, but it's like the closest metropolitan area from where I grew up, and there's a lot of design jobs there. I'm a graphic designer for my day job. If you didn't know that, I work for a kids craft company, which is super fun. I do web design and like marketing ads and all that fun stuff, which I love. So I moved to New York City for my job, and when I moved to New York City, I said I would give it 5 years to see if I liked it, and in 5 years I would reevaluate, see if I could work remotely, maybe have a new job somewhere else, or you know, in 5 years I would reevaluate, because I didn't really go into New York City living in New York City with high expectations. I kind of thought I would not like it, because in the past, when I was like visiting when I was younger, we would just go to the touristy spots like Times Square, you know, just like crowded, dirty places, and I was like convinced I'm not gonna like New York City. But surprise, surprise, I moved there. I loved it. And so that's why when the pandemic hit, I was kind of like shook. I'm like, well, why am I living here? Why am I spending almost $2,000 in an apartment and then I can't leave? I can't see anyone. There were a couple months in the spring during quarantine where I didn't see anyone I knew. I didn't see anyone really in March. I think I started quarantining like March 7th, so I didn't see anyone that month. I didn't see anyone in April. I didn't see anyone in May. In June, I came upstate like halfway through the month. So that's like it's like 3.5 months where you don't see a single person. You're living by yourself in this small apartment. I mean, granted, it wasn't tiny like you've seen, I'm sure, some New York City apartments. It was 1 bedroom. But, you know, I was missing a lot of the things I loved when I lived in New York City, and it didn't seem worth it to stay anymore. I was really sad and depressed, and as someone who's really optimistic and just happy generally all the time, I feel like I'm a very strong person, and I don't get sad a lot, and if I do get sad, it's just like I get sad. And I was real sad, and I couldn't do it anymore. And so I came upstate for the summer, just kind of reevaluate, see my family, get out of the city, get some human interaction. And I really enjoyed my time upstate this summer. I had a really good core group of friends I would hang out with, which probably wasn't the safest idea at the time since it was COVID, but luckily I didn't get COVID or get sick. But I had a really good core group of friends, and one of my best friends of 3 years, she kind of convinced me to move upstate. She said it would be really great for you, like we'd hang out all the time and blah blah blah. She and like the friend group was like very supportive of me moving upstate. It sounded like a really good idea, an option at the time. So I decided to move, you know, onto greener pastures per se, upstate. And so I went back in August for 2 weeks, packed up all my stuff, and moved up in the end of August, moved into my apartment. And it was really great, and I love my apartment. It's so nice. I love how I decorated it. I promise there'll be a house tour coming soon. But yeah, it was really great. And then when I moved upstate, this one friend that was really convincing for me to move upstate, I'm not saying she was the reason I did, but she did play a big factor in me moving upstate. She basically stopped talking to me 1 week after I moved upstate, which was really, really devastating to me. She said she needed some space, and I told her to have like as much space as she needed. Like, I'm here whenever you want to reach out and reconnect. And she never really reached out again until like 5 months later. I'm not going to really get into that too much more, but that was really devastating when I first moved, because then her and like that core group of friends I made this summer, they're basically all gone, and I kind of had to start from scratch essentially. And I think a big thought I had was like, I'm essentially starting from scratch. I moved up here specifically so I wouldn't have to start from scratch, like friend-wise, relationships-wise. I mean, I do have my family, which I love. Having my family so close, that's so nice. But it's also like, I could have moved anywhere. I could have followed my dreams and moved to California like I've always wanted to, or I could have moved to Florida, like living under the palm trees. I don't know. In that moment, I was like, oh crap. Did I make a huge mistake by moving up here? And I don't think I did make a mistake. I'm really happy where I am now, but it did take me a really long time to get settled in the decision that I am upstate. I'm here. We're gonna live it. We're gonna live the upstate life. But yeah, it took me a really long time just kind of re-center myself and figure out, who am I upstate? Who are my friends? Who's my core group of people? What's my life gonna look like on a daily basis? Because a lot of that like changed from that one friendship ending. I've been hanging out with my brother, which is really great. He's one of my best friends, and so it's been really nice spending a lot of time with him, and I've kind of made some new friends, and I have some possible new other friendships. So that's really exciting. I am feeling a lot more settled and happy in my decision to be upstate. I think my morning walks were really helping, and just kind of getting into a normal daily routine has like helped me be happy upstate, because that's one thing in New York City I loved, was like going and doing things all the time. That's one thing that's kind of lacking up here. I mean, obviously COVID's a thing and there's not many things happening around in general, but like giving myself like daily things to do, like take a walk, go grab some coffee, go to the store. I think those like little things are helping me kind of normalize my life right now and kind of be happy with the decision I've made. I'm not sure if I really want to be completely settled here for like ever. I think it'd be really fun to try living out in California or like somewhere else. I'm really open to it. I'd also, if the opportunity were to ever arise, I would definitely be open and willing to move back to New York City with movers, because my move was kind of horrendous and awful, but I would definitely be open to that in the future. I do think if I was going to move back to New York City though, I think I wouldn't want to do it alone. I think that's one thing I was really missing in New York City, and a really big factor of why I moved was I didn't have a roommate to like talk to. That's why I got so lonely in quarantine, and I didn't have someone there every single day like kind of supporting me. There would be days when, even before quarantine, when I wouldn't see anyone I knew. And then just COVID and quarantine kind of escalated that to like being an everyday thing. And so I think if I was to move back to New York City, I would definitely want a roommate, or maybe if I was seeing someone, I would want to move in with them, or see where life takes me. I'm definitely open to the idea of moving back, but I do think I would like some kind of support system there, or like at least someone close by I could see on a semi-regular basis, just because living alone can be kind of sad sometimes. I'm pretty independent and I do like living on my own, but I mean, it's nice to see someone at least once or twice a week that you can just say hi to, you know, like that's something that I did not have in New York City. And one thing I have upstate, I mean, it's my brother, but I think relationship is so important. I'm a very social person, and if I don't have that aspect of socialization in my life, I get really sad and bummed out. But yeah, so I asked you guys some question, or I had a question box on my stories and see what we got. So someone said, curious to see how living in Saratoga is after being in New York City. I think it's nice for sure. My apartment's a lot bigger for like about a little less price, which is amazing. I would say it's like slightly less convenient to like live up here because you have to drive everywhere. I totally miss the subway and like the convenience of living there. There's like a lot more grocery delivery up there, and like a lot more restaurants that do delivery, and it's just like a lot easier to live in New York City. I mean, maybe not for everyone, but I like the convenience factor for sure. I think moving out of New York City, you realize there's never going to be a more convenient place to live. Like, you could get anything at any time of the day, which is what I love. But I will say, I think I do have a pretty sweet setup here in Saratoga. I live downtown, which is really nice. I grew up wanting to like live in downtown Saratoga, and I didn't think it was ever going to happen just because like it's so expensive. But I think after living in New York City, you can kind of like live anywhere. You can kind of do anything you want. Maybe not do anything you want, but it's a lot easier to kind of put that into perspective because New York City is so expensive. But yeah. Someone asked, where do you get bagels and pizza up here? And who asked this, I am so sorry, but I have not found any good bagel places or pizza spots nearby that I love. I have some spots that I like, but it's not the same as like New York City pizza. Like, I haven't found a place like I absolutely love. For pizza, I usually go to Pizza Shack in Gansevoort. It's like near my parents' house. That's like my favorite place to get pizza around here, but I don't think it's New York City pizza by any means because the crust is fluffy, but like the regular part of the pizza is like pretty thin, which is good, but the crust is not that thin crust, if that makes sense. I do like Mamma Mia's. They're pretty good, but sometimes it's hit or miss with them. And bagel spots, I don't really know. There's not any places like in Saratoga that I love going to for bagels. There's Uncommon Grounds, which is like okay for bagels, but they're not a New York City bagel place by any means. Sorry for all you Uncommon Grounds lovers, if there's anyone watching. The bagels, they're good, they're not great. I've heard Loxa Bagels in Queensbury is good. I haven't been there in a really long time, so I can't really say if they're like authentic good New York City bagels, but I've heard they're amazing bagels, so maybe check it out there if you ask me that question. Someone said, what do you miss most about New York City? I think what I miss most is just the overall vibe. Like, the hustle culture is something that is really something I really enjoyed and loved living there. Like, always having somewhere to go, something to do, just kind of like everyone there is kind of doing the most to reach their goals, and that is so motivating. And it's so motivating to be around and see and like ride the subway and be like, all these people are like doing something, and they're probably like reaching for like their ultimate goals and dreams, which makes you want to be a better person and like do whatever it takes to achieve your dreams. I think that's just so motivating to live there and like be around that energy all of the time. It's so inspiring. So I think that's one of the things I miss most about New York City. Oh, and someone also asked, what is the average price of rent in New York City? Is it more reasonable where you moved? Yeah, so I would say, I mean, I guess anywhere in New York is kind of expensive rent-wise, at least where I was looking at, because a little bougie, but my rent up here is less expensive for sure. I was paying close to $2,000 with rent and utilities in New York City, and now my apartment is only $1,500, but I have utilities, which a little high, because in New York City you don't have to pay for heating, which I miss so much. But up here, it's cold. It's much colder, and so I guess it's not as cheap as I was expecting moving here, but it is definitely more reasonable. The groceries are cheaper. Everything is is majorly less expensive. Ubers are cheaper. I haven't really taken an Uber, but I've looked at the prices. But there's a lot less expense. But you know, you're kind of swapping the amenities of New York City for upstate and the cheaper prices. So, I mean, it's kind of like what you prefer. I think I personally prefer New York City. Like, I think at this point, if I hadn't moved, I would be happy staying there, by the way the city's kind of waking up a little bit more. So I do regret it like slightly, but I'm also like very happy where I am right now. That being said, I think I've said it before, I'm open to moving back, and I think I like New York City life like a little bit more, or it's like pretty even for me right now. There's pros and cons to both. And you know, I'm just a pretty happy gal in general, so like wherever I'm at, I'm just gonna like make the most of it and be positive. But yeah, so I'm headed back to the city this weekend. Actually, I am very, very excited for just to have a visit to the city and kind of see some friends and kind of get the best parts of the city in one week. And I think that's something that's really nice, and I'm glad I'm upstate, is like I can still get to the city really easily, and it's not too expensive to go down for a weekend. So it's nice to have that accessibility and just be there, be able to go down for a weekend and hit like your favorite things. That's been really good for my mental health. When I go down, I just feel so much lighter and happier for the next week. So yeah, I definitely miss it, but I think it's nice that I'm still able to go visit at this time. Like per se, like let's say I moved down to Florida, I wouldn't be able to go to New York City on a weekend. Like that would be something that's not happening. But yeah, if you've made it this far in the video, I want to say thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and if you have any more questions with me, comment down below and I will try and reply to those, or maybe I'll make a part 2 if people really liked this. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you all have an amazing day.